Thank you very much. Here I am. Good afternoon to everyone. Thank you especially to IFAD for this wonderful opportunity to talk about the link between the consumer and the producers and the organic certification. To do that, I want to take you to 3 moments in history. The first moment will be at the end of the 80s, the beginning of the 90s, when organic farming was starting in Latin America and were the smallholders, the first organic farmers to be certified. And I was fortunate enough to be the first inspector to visit many of these groups. And when I went to 4,000 meters to visit the quinoa producers in Bolivia, or I went to visit sugarcane farmers in Paraguay, or cacao growers in Panama, they were surprised of my task. They asked me, "What do you mean? They prefer our products? They prefer them because we have not used pesticides, so our traditional farming was the right way to farm?" Yes, they prefer your products because you're protecting the rivers and you're protecting biodiversity. And this was such an empowering force for them. I saw them flourish. I kept coming year after year to do the inspections, and you can see them grow. Of course, it was not just empowerment of the consumer, it was also the premium they were getting. Fair prices makes a big difference. And also there was a middleman, a buyer between the consumer and the producer that wanted to know the producer. He visited them, he invested, water tanks, water wells, roads, computers, schools were built in this community because the producer believed in the process and believed in the producer, because the middleman, believed in in this process. But also, he was very honest with the consumer. He educated the consumer about what was happening in the field. The connection was really good. But this is just how organic farming started. The first standards were written in an effort between the consumers and the producers. So, for example, the transition an organic farming has to do to be able to sell their products organic is 3 years. 3 years he has to apply the organic standards, and he cannot sell them organic. The consumer said, "Is that enough to guarantee that I have a clean product from a clean soil? Or should it be 5 years?" And the producer will say, "Me farming for 5 years without being able to sell it organic? No, let's make it 3 years." So they come to an agreement. And most of the standards were written like that. Was certification expensive? We tried to do everything to make it more accessible. At the beginning, the inspectors came from Europe or from the States to visit our farms. Some of them have never seen a coffee plant, but we guide them through the process. Then we train local inspectors with the help of the International Organic Inspectors Association from Chile to Cuba to Guatemala. We did training to have local organic inspectors. We started local certification agencies like the one I direct. That is a non-profit certification agency. Is owned by the Organic Association in Costa Rica. And we started group certification for large co-ops of thousands of farmers that if you go visit each of them is going to be very expensive. So they have to have an internal control system, and their extension office has to visit each of them. The idea was working. We saw the group grow. I think organic farming as a development strategy was really happening in the field. The consumer demand increased, the market grew steadily 20% every year, and then 2 things happen. And we are coming to the second moment in the certification process. governments got involved in this process. Right now, there are around 70 countries in the world that have legislation in organic standards. This is very positive. The chain, the custody of the products, the traceability between the consumer and the producer is achieved. But imagine this cacao grower in Panama that wants to sell. He doesn't know very well when he's planting the cacao, where is the market. So he has to follow all the standards of potential markets. So he followed the standards of the US, Europe, probably he will sell to Switzerland, so he also follows the Switzerland standard. And at the end, they are very similar, but there are a small difference between all of them that make a big difference in the farm. So I have to make compost. I cannot use this manure, but I can use this one. Also, these standards are always changing a little bit on each country. If you are in the US and your standards change it a little bit every year, you don't feel it very much. But if you are in Costa Rica or in Panama and you have to follow all the standards and they are all changing a little bit each time, it's like the producers tell me when I go visit as inspector, you're changing the rules every time you come here. And us, as a certification agency, we're in the middle of this, trying to support the producer, but also trying to continue accredited by the different governments. And this has become a spiral of control that is asphyxiating, more or less, the producers. And we are in the middle of that as certification agencies. We try to do our best. Just an example, our government passed a regulation last December saying that the producers have to comply with any non-conformity within 10 days. So you have to improve a storage area, you have 10 days to do it. You have to plant a buffer zone between a conventional and an organic field. You have 10 days to do it. So there we are, the certification agencies, trying to stretch that time to give more time to the producers. The message I'm transmitting, the message I transmitted before was of empowerment. We like what you are doing. We like the way you farm. We like your farm. Now I'm coming with a message of documentation control and trust. This, I'm achieving exactly the opposite. If before I was empowering the producer, I feel now we're disempowering the producer. On the other hand, the market kept growing. The consumer, very interested in health and environmental issues, kept buying organic products, and it became a good business. These diagrams were developed by the University of Santa Cruz in California. They publish one diagram like this one every year, showing how the small organic buyer was purchased by big buyers. So the large food corporation started buying all the small companies. And now, who is in between the consumer and the producer is this big buyer that is not as concerned and does not understand the producer as well, and is not transmitting the same message to the consumer. So the link is broken. What are we doing now? And that brings us to the third moment, and it's today. What are we doing today? We need to change that. We went into organic production because we believe in the principle of care, because we believe in the principle of fairness, and we're not achieving that. We are doing the right work in the field. We are protecting the environment. That I'm not concerned. Organic integrity here is not at stake, but the value chain, we lost the control. So the International Federation of the Organic Movements, with all its 800 members around the world, we are all looking for solutions. I have to say, this is not happening to every farmer, or there are still small buyers there that are giving the premium to the producer. But we need to change this structure. The value chain is as important as what is happening in the field. So there are groups that have promoted participatory guarantee systems. Is alternative certification systems. We are going back to the idea of the consumer going to the farm, visiting the producers. This system of certification is being accepted by regulation in many countries already. Brazil, for example, has accepted this regulation for exporting goods. And many countries, like Philippines, India, Taiwan, had accepted for local market. Costa Rica, Peru. Also, we need to promote a closer link between the producer and the consumer. That's the main strategy. Local markets is a key factor that is being promoted. In general, people complain about the prices of the organic products, but organic products sold at conventional prices in the local market are a good strategy for the producers, because when we bring these two together, the fair price reaches the consumer. We feel that in this strategy to bring the principles back, the principle of care and fairness, we need to have the consumer well informed of what is happening in the farm. So when they choose a product in the shelf, they know that they are deciding in the livelihood of the farmer. Thank you very much.